Okay. I don't think Janet knows I'm recording this. She just stepped away to get another cup of coffee, so here's my chance. Hey everyone, it's Andy from the United Way of the Northern Shenandoah Valley. And yes, Janet, if you're hearing this, surprise, we're still celebrating the Valley Today's 2500th episode and this awesome community fundraiser you came up with. Here's the deal. Between now and the end of the year, it's Janet's goal to raise $2,500 to support the great work of the nonprofits in this community. If you give just $25 or more, you're going to be entered into a chance to be a guest on the show with Janet. If you give $250 or more, we'll make you a commercial just like this one that will air on the Valley Today podcast. So go to givebutter.com/The Valley Today right now before Janet realizes that I've hijacked her airtime. She's walking back in, cup of coffee in hand, gotta go. Remember to donate between now and the end of the year and support the great work of so many nonprofits and celebrate 2,500 episodes of the Valley Today.
Hello and welcome to the Valley Today. I am your host, Janet Michael. It is Camping for Hunger Week on the River 95.3, so that means if you're listening on the radio today, the bus is parked and ready to accept your non-perishable food and monetary donations at Royal Plaza Shopping Center in Front Royal. Station staff will be on the bus 24/7 until Saturday morning to greet you, accept your donations, and show their gratitude. Everything collected will benefit Front Royal CCAP. You can visit theriver953.com/campingforhunger for a list of needed items or to make an online donation. All week, I'll be highlighting the need in our surrounding communities and featuring several nonprofits through the conversations that I've had with them in the last few weeks. Have a listen. We are on the Zooms today with Andy Gale. Andy is CEO at United Way, Northern Shenandoah Valley. Andy Gale, thank you for having a conversation with me for Camping for Hunger Week. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be doing this via Zoom and not in the bus. Well, fun. Last year was a mad dash to get on air to go live.
That's right. We had all kinds of technical difficulties last year. So today we're going to talk about 211. And I'm not sure how many people listening know that it exists, know what it is, how they can access resources. So I want to start with, what is it exactly? How does it work? Give me the background and history on that.
Yeah, so everyone knows 911. So in an emergency, you need police, fire, rescue, something's going on, you can dial 911 and get connected. There are two new numbers coming online. There's 988 for mental health crises, and then 211 is for any other help or assistance you need. It's a resource navigation line. So United Way in the past has done it. Other organizations have done dedicated resource navigators. The state, in partnership with the 17 United Ways across the Commonwealth, said, no, we really need to focus this money and our time on statewide connections. So our resource navigators here could have known about the stuff in our region, but did they know about the state level help? So now through Serve Virginia and the Virginia 211 Coalition, just dial 211 and you'll be connected to the 211 system for the Commonwealth of Virginia. And you can say, hey, I'm having trouble with housing and shelter, food, utilities, healthcare, mental health, employment, clothing and household, childcare, government and legal, transportation, education, disaster, anything like that. And they'll be connected to either a local or state connection for service.
It sounds brilliant because nobody in and of themselves know what all of those resources are. And I think when you're in a crisis, that crisis is only happening to you and it's unique to you. So you don't always think about an agency that might be able to help you because you know that they're a food pantry, but may not know they offer utility assistance. So this really fills in all of those blanks.
Yeah, and it's really great. United Way always did a resource guide, and the second we hit print, something needed to be changed or was out of date. So it became such a challenge. And then when the state stepped up to do this along with the other United Ways, it made a lot of sense that this be a program that we support. We're in the process of becoming reviewers, so any updates can get up a little faster. They've put much larger Commonwealth-wide resources behind it versus our region of 6 localities. Benefits are we have it. So we're on there. We have other partner agencies that have updated their 211 listings. Once we can approve them, we'll go a little faster, but you can get things up there so you can be connected. So say you're in Page County and you need assistance. Yeah, some people might know about Page One, but you know about the state level program that you could apply for. So it's been a really neat way to connect state programs to locals.
And you, as United Way CEO, have access to a dashboard that also gives you statistics, which I think is really important, particularly during this week of Camping for Hunger, for people to understand what the state of basic needs are throughout the Shenandoah Valley. You have access to those numbers.
We do. Anytime you're in the system and you call, you put the information in, and it automatically updates to the dashboard. We can look at the whole statewide, or you can look just our region. So I pulled the data for Winchester, Frederick, Clark, Warren, Shenandoah, and Page counties. So the area we serve and a lot of your listeners live. And for the last year, we've seen almost 3,000 total calls to the 211 line. Majority have been for housing and shelter. So 1,551 calls for housing and shelter. Next, 617 calls for utilities, then food, and then other like special population services, advocacy, volunteering, and donations, things like that. But if you look at housing and shelter, I can drill down. Of those 1,500 calls, which represent 52.8% of all calls to 211 last year, 51% were for rent assistance, 20% for shelter, 12% for affordable housing, 10% for contacts in the housing space, 3% for home repairs and maintenance, and only 2% for mortgage assistance. So that's over 800 people calling 211 to get help with rent.
To be clear, you can't see the names.
No.
So you're
No.
only seeing the numbers. So you can't tell that John Smith called because he couldn't make a rent payment this month. You're only seeing that an individual in this locality called asking about this particular service or needing this particular type of help.
Oh, yeah, this is all aggregate data. So these are just people, individuals that called 211 from our 6 localities. I can also change it to yesterday. So yesterday we had 2 calls and they're both for rent assistance. I can look at the last 30 days. We had 264 calls. Again, rent assistance being number 1. Food's up a little bit as well. Food pantry. There were 25 calls for that.
And then you are able to break that down. So right now you're looking at the city of Winchester and all of the surrounding counties, but you could, for example, pull up and say, this is what the needs percentage was for housing and shelter in Frederick County or in Clark County or Warren County individually as well.
Yeah, let me pull that. I'll pull Clark County, for example. So in Clark County, in the last 30 days, there were 13 calls to 211. 6 of them were for utilities. So 6 people called for electric, 2 people called for food pantries, 2 people for rent assistance, 1 for medical expense assistance, and then 1 for childcare and 1 for public transportation. So it just shows the wide breadth of where this data can be from. And that's just the last month. If we do the last year, 365 days, Clark County had 94 people call. The county tends to be sparsely populated with a big disparity from the have and the have-nots, sort of those that need help and those that can provide it. The county helps itself. But the nice thing with Clark County is this resource is still there. Yes, Berryville's, the Clark County community is so strong and they help each other, but it's another way to connect people to resources and make sure that all the resources are there. We always welcome nonprofits to go to 211. You can go to 211virginia.org, and if you're a nonprofit, get yourself listed if you provide those services. That just helps to update, helps to provide more information. So when someone calls and they're clearing the call center, they can connect them to the right resource.
On the nonprofit side, United Way is seeing a huge change, I guess you could say, in the nonprofits that are still in existence, because some have sadly had to close their doors. Some are changing their focus. I've had many conversations with Andrea Cousins from Winchester CCAP about how they may have to decide, do they just want to be a food pantry? Do they just want to offer utility assistance? Being able to go in and make those changes themselves is incredibly beneficial. So somebody's not calling a food pantry looking for utility assistance when that's not something that they offer anymore.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The need is increasing. The nonprofits are going to have to decide. United Way did it a year and a half ago. We made a tough decision with Van, and we've moved forward, and we're still able to provide help to those organizations that are specifically set up for that. We have to have these conversations, and we have those with all our impact grant partners and those that come to talk to us, that you really need to tighten your focus and figure out where you're making the most impact. 211 helped us to say, hey, we're not going to do the resource navigation ourselves. We're going to let the state handle it. And we're a partner. Part of our dues to United Way do go help to fund this, but it really does make a difference because over 45% of residents in the Congressional District 6 live at or below the ALICE threshold. And only 10% of them are actually on SNAP and facing those challenges. We have data from 211. We have the United for Alice report. So if you just Google United for Alice, you can get a lot of information. And for those listeners that don't know, Alice is for asset limited, income constrained employed. So that's for people that pretty much like Andrea at CCAP, she says it. They're there to help those that can make it 3 weeks out of the month, but struggle on that fourth week.
They have traditionally been called the working poor, which is a terrible phrase to use, but sadly, it is as descriptive as it gets. It's someone who has one job, two jobs, three jobs. It's a single mom who is doing everything that they can to keep their kids in daycare, keep clothes on their back and food in their stomachs and a roof over their head. But like you said, falls just a tad short or manages to do it, to juggle all of it until their car breaks down.
Mhm.
Or until like we've had a cold snap and heat is going to be turned on now in a lot of homes. Oil has to be delivered for furnaces. And those are just not things they have extra money for.
It's tough. Even when they have jobs, their income doesn't cover all the essentials: housing, childcare, food, transportation, healthcare, and technology, plus taxes that need to be paid. So it's a tough struggle for families out there that are trying. These are not people that are milking the system or that are taking advantage. These are people that are everyday people like you and I that just hit a rough spot. I'm thankful to have savings and family and things that can help when I'm in those positions. But if you didn't have that, 211 and the communities really are a place that you see people turn to. And that makes you really proud to live in our region. I've talked to United Ways throughout the state, and some regions aren't as giving. The corporations might give more there, but they don't see people helping out. I don't know if anyone's seen it on TikTok. There's a TikTok person that is calling churches and pretending to have a baby that's not had food in 48 hours, and she's just trying to get help with a can of formula. And it's interesting to see how many say, yes, we're happy to help, those that say no, in this interesting social experiment that's happening out there. Yeah, it's been wild to see how many no's she gets. And here in this community, I have a strong feeling that if they called our office with the crying baby, while we don't provide direct services in those cases, the team here would make it appear. The community wants to help. We live in a caring community and times are hard. Nonprofits are struggling to meet the need. People are struggling to meet basic needs. That's really why we've had our focus pulled in that direction as a United Way.
And it is, again, really hard for an individual to know where those resources are available. First of all, they've probably tried to keep it together for a very long time and maybe are further behind than they'd like because they kept thinking, I can make this work, or I'm just going to get this extra shift, or I'm going to start driving for Uber Eats overnight. And it's not as economically sound as what they had hoped. And then they're embarrassed. They're ashamed to call and ask for this help that they so desperately need, which is crazy to think about because they are contributing members of society.
That's why I think CCAP does a great job. Page One, Shenandoah Alliance for Shelter. So many of our partners that work in this basic need space treat people with such dignity and respect. And I think that goes so long. It's even those facing homelessness that you see, just a good morning and putting a smile on their face. They're people too. That's the part that I think some people stop seeing. And yes, there's challenges. Yes, there's problems, but we shouldn't let one bad apple ruin the bunch.
There are just so many different situations that people who were never in one of those situations don't think about or even know exist. One of the things that come to mind is a conversation I had with Faith Power at the Laurel Center a couple of months ago during the Impact Grant panels. None of us ever think that we're going to be in a situation where we're in an abusive relationship and have to literally leave in the middle of the night with the clothes on our back and don't have a job because our controlling other half, spouse or boyfriend or otherwise, has kept us from working for all of these years. I mean, there are just so many situations out there that people don't understand that people can find themselves in very, very quickly.
Yeah, it's always tough. And that's where we're trying to coordinate and collaborate with partners in the community to really make an impact and make a difference and help those that need it while pushing the community towards change because it needs to happen. Brandon from the mission always used to say he wants to work so hard that he ends homelessness so that the mission doesn't have a job. United Way, we would love to do that, but it would be world peace. And we're going to work together to build a stronger, more resilient Shenandoah Valley.
Funding is not as guaranteed or as solid as a lot of people think. If the government shutdown has taught us nothing, it's that nothing is a given anymore. And nonprofits who have always gotten federal funding or maybe gotten something from the state. Also, I don't think a lot of people realize that sometimes that state funding comes from a federal source.
It does.
So you can't just say, oh no, my program gets funded by the Commonwealth of Virginia. The Commonwealth of Virginia might be getting 40% of that money from the federal government, and now that's going to be cut. This is why nonprofits need local agencies, local giving like United Way to have the emergency fund that we talked about last month that you've set up. This is why things like that are so important.
Yeah, it really is. Big thank you to Our Health and Navy Federal for their support and some community members that have jumped in. And Kim Will on my team really put it best: fast, local, and flexible. Because when emergencies hit, paperwork should not get in the way of assistance. And that's one that we really feel strongly about. Everyone's familiar with the United Way Impact Grants, and that's a team of 50 people, and it takes a few months, and those are bigger gifts. But what happens if a freezer goes down at the Evans home, or a pipe burst at the Laurel Center or Phoenix Project, somewhere there that people are in need every day? How can these nonprofits that right now might not have that extra $5,000 that they need? That's why we really wanted to start this fund. And then with the emergency fund right now, with the needs for food, it's really where we've been focused. We've seen an increase at our food banks, at our food pantries, with people providing support. So the need's still there. And I talked to Jenny from Highland before we even put this up. They were up 20% in people coming in, even before SNAP was becoming a challenge. So we're in this tightrope walk of people making it and people needing assistance. And the United Way wants to help bring people together and have a fund that we can help do just that.
And let's be clear, SNAP benefits do not completely and totally feed a family based on the amount of money that they get. I mean, it's called Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, for a reason. It is not going to feed your family in its entirety. It is supposed to give you the little bit extra that you need to be able to do it. But sometimes that's all these families have.
The average person in the city of Winchester is only getting like $110 a month. So it's not enough to feed in full. It's not like they're out buying lobsters and steak and all these things that people have been told and given this picture of. Yeah, I'm sure some people that were defrauding the system might have done that, but really it's for that family of four where mom and dad are both working two jobs. They're trying to help get the kids fed. It's a box of mac and cheese. It's eggs. It's things that we take for granted that I don't think about. I just go to my fridge and it's there. Yes, I go and buy it. I'm able to do that, but it's just letting people eat. And that's just basic human decency. Politics aside, I think it's becoming more and more clear that we really need to focus on our community and letting the community rally behind those that need help. Look at Victoria at Hideaway, Amanda and Bill from Clem's Kitchen, and Billy Sue's food truck, the Fridge program. So many people are filling up these fridges. One's right outside of our door. There's one at Montague Methodist Church in Winchester, one at Abundant Life, and one in Middletown, where if you have leftovers from a party, or when we have a board meeting for United Way, there's leftover lunches. We put those in, and within 10, 15 minutes, someone's come up and taken them because they need it. And people think, oh, they're just taking it all. No, this is people that just need something to eat, that are waiting in line. They're polite. They're thankful. They're grateful. They just are looking for something to eat. When you came for a meeting the other day, a lady came and there was a hot dog. We let her in to microwave her hot dog, and she was so thankful to us. And we just opened the door and said, it's right there if you'd like to use it. Because
Right?
we didn't ask questions, but food's that basic human right. It's really something that shouldn't be taken for granted. And it bugs me so much that it's been made such a partisan issue. It's not. This is just helping your neighbor, helping your friends, and being a good human. That's really all we should ask for. And when people want to play games with it, it really just, you pause for a minute and be like, is this really what's important?
And I don't think people understand the impact. So, for example, Tim and I did our usual run to Walmart for groceries over the weekend. And as we're heading to the checkout line, we always do a number. I'm like, how much do you think is in the cart? He came up with a number. I'm always higher than his number. And it was higher even than my number. There are just two of us and dogs that eat like four teenagers. But it was nearly $300. It was just a hair shy of $300. If I were in that situation and could have spent $150, gotten the things on my list that SNAP does not cover, and people would be shocked at what you cannot use SNAP for, because if I'm not mistaken, it's things like toothpaste. It's things that you wouldn't normally think of, but I could have taken that extra $150 and put it towards the rent. I could have taken it to put oil in my furnace. I could have put gas in my car to get back and forth to work. I could have used it for daycare. That's why it's so important that food is the easiest thing that people can help contribute to another family for.
That's the first thing that goes to. The United for Alice report really talks about when budgets start to tighten and food costs go way up, you're going to make swaps. So say I had a couple of kids and they liked berries. Those are really expensive. I never thought blueberries and raspberries were expensive until I went and bought them the other day and was like, whoa. Okay, so no more berries, but how are we still getting them fruit? So maybe apples or fruit snacks. These swaps, they're going to cause detrimental ripples. Childcare too. I'm on the board at Fremont, and we are always constantly looking at how do we maintain the quality education we're doing, but making it affordable for parents. And thankfully, Governor Youngkin and his administration has put a ton of money and support into early childhood. And with Governor like Spanberger, I think we're going to see the same because that's important. So how do you make this budget work? How do you stretch it, food, or keep the lights on? There's so many families that are making those choices, and we're seeing more and more need out there. We're seeing more and more challenges, stress, and even on the nonprofit side, we're seeing burnout. There's increased need on all these nonprofits, and the staffs are usually small staffs, lots of work, lots of hats. We got to take care of them too, and really focus as a community on coming together in these divisions and the derisiveness. How can we help make sure that our community is resilient, can handle these things, but also the supports are there? And having 211 let us take from a regional or even a small city location to the statewide to get access to those programs has been really great.
So how can someone listening today contribute to the emergency fund?
It's on our website, unitedwaynsv.org. It'll be the leader on our scrolling banner. You can go to givebutter.com/UWNSVCRF, and it'll take you right to the fund where you can make a donation. Our Health and United Way both put $5,000 as seed money in. Navy Federal has expressed commitment to help as well. We're reaching out to the community foundations and a few others to try to get this funded so that we can raise $50,000 and have it so that we can help support those organizations that are seeing increased need, demand doubling overnight.
And we're also coming into a season where no other time of the year should someone go hungry. We don't want to see it happen in June, July, or August, but we absolutely certainly don't want to see it happen over Thanksgiving, over Christmas. These are the times when, if you're never going to give any other time of the year, now is the time to think for a minute, what would happen if you just lost your home, if you just lost your car, if you just lost your job? Where would you be? What would you need? And can you do that little bit extra? I mean, Tim still looked at me as we're doing our grocery run, and I'm getting the milk and the butter and the cheese, all of the standard things, and I'm getting 2 of everything. And he looks at me, he's like, why are you, we're never going to use that much milk. What, are you kidding me? And I'm like, it's not for me. It's for the fridge, because I can spend an extra 30 or 40 bucks, get another gallon of milk, get some sliced cheese, get some butter, get some basic things, and put them in the fridge for somebody else. I can afford that in the grand scheme of what I'm spending on a grocery bill.
And that's the thing. You can support the fridge. You can put food in those. Again, there's one on Cameron Street at our office, Montague Methodist, Abundant Life, and then at the Wayside in Middletown. There's the food pantries that are up and down the valley. Blue Ridge Area Food Bank has a food finder website and link. I'll get you that so you can put them in the show notes along with our resource guide of food. I mean, like I said, the TikTok lady that's calling churches about formula. So baby food. The one thing we get a lot of thanks for in the fridge, there's food, there's not a lot of drinks. So can you buy a thing of water? $4 at Costco, you get a bunch of water. Stick that in. If you want to give to our fund, the United Way has always been the home to the small giver. $1 here, $5 there. When you get that with everyone in the community, it really does help to make a difference. And we're going to use that concept here where if you have an extra $1 to give, throw it to our emergency fund, and we're going to help get that to people that really do need it.
Actually, I'm wrapping up my week of conversations with Les Sinclair from the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, so I'm sure he'll give us more details about that too. But Andy, thank you for the work that you and your very tiny team are doing there at United Way, and I appreciate you educating me today on the 211 information.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for having me as always.
Well, that's it for us today, but Camping for Hunger bus at Royal Plaza Shopping Center is still open 24/7, as a matter of fact, through Saturday morning, with station staff anxiously awaiting your drop-off of non-perishable food and monetary donations to benefit Front Royal CCAP. Visit theriver953.com/campingforhunger for a list of needed items, or to make an online donation. I'll put links for that and from our conversation today in the show notes at thevalleytodaypodcast.com. gmail.com. And tomorrow I'll be back with a brand new conversation just a few minutes after noon. So meet me here then.